Hello, everybody. I think it's 5 o'clock here in India. Welcome to the second day of the Days of Miracles. So we had a huge hailstorm here, but now the sun shines, as you can see. So we are all ready. And today we welcome Venerable Drolma. I hear myself. Venerable Drolma. I ignore myself in the headphones. Venerable Drolma is from England and studied in our sister center in Chenrezig Institute for 9 years before she joined us here in the Meklet-Ganj area, studying Tibetan and then joining the Geshe program in the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, which is part of, His Holiness Compound Namgyal Monastery, physically, and is now already in her 10th year, I think, in the Uma class, in the Madhyamika class. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So we are so happy that Venerable Droma is joining the program again this year. So here we go. Thank you so much. I'm just looking over because she's with me in the room.
Thank you, Camilla, and thank you everyone for joining us on the Days of Miracles, and happy Lozang to you all, and welcome to this time together here at Tikida Online. So we can begin setting our motivation, and I'd like to share with you a beautiful image from the flower ornament scripture, the flower ornament sutra from the Buddha. I came across it in His Holiness Dalai Lama's book, Universe in a Single Atom, and it's always really inspired me, and it's a beautiful reflection on interconnectedness. So I invite you to reflect on this image as I share it with you, and we can bring that into our motivation. So just take a couple of moments to sit comfortably and take a couple of nice deep breaths to settle the mind. So in the flower ornament scripture, it compares the intricate and profoundly interconnected reality of the world to an infinite net of gems called Indra's jeweled net, which reaches out to infinite space. Each knot on the net is a crystal gem, and it is connected to all the other gems and reflects in itself all the others. On such a net, no jewel is in the center or at the edge. Each and every jewel is at the center in that it reflects all the other jewels in the net. And at the same time, it is at the edge in that it itself is reflected in all the other jewels. So just visualizing or imagining that intricate net of jewels. And seeing if you can get a sense of how we are all interconnected like that. Not just all of us people, but everything that in our planet and everything in the universe, how we're all interconnected. Does it bring a sense of awe to you? It does to me. So seeing how we're all related to each other, or reflected in each other and affected by each other. Thinking that if we can live our lives with a good motivation, if we can meet others with understanding, if we can meet difficulties with courage and be kind-hearted, then it is going to have a positive impact in the world. So as we begin the Tibetan Lozang, this new lunar calendar, it's a good time to set our motivation so we can set it to grow in love and understanding and to face life's difficulties with courage and confidence and curiosity. Because these attitudes are going to contribute to our own peace of mind, right? And to others too. So this is like, in a way, our contribution to world peace. So if you like to mix your mind with this kind of motivation for a few moments and you can extend it to wanting to achieve our full potential of enlightenment for the sake, in order to alleviate the suffering of all sentient beings, then I invite you to extend your motivation that way too. Just hold that motivation while we go for refuge. Bodhicitta. I go for refuge and I'm enlightened with Buddha, Dharma, and the Arya Sangha. An accumulation like the lead to sharing the Dharma may attain the state of a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Go for refuge and form enlightened with the Buddha, Dharma, the Arya Sangha. Accumulations like the lead through sharing the Dharma may attain the state of a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Go for refuge until I'm enlightened with the Buddha, Dharma, and the Arya Sangha. And accumulations like the lead through sharing the Dharma may attain the state of a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness in its cause. May all sentient beings be free from suffering in its cause. May all sentient beings never be separated from the happiness of those who are suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment and hatred for those who are close and distant. Okay, so reflecting on this intricate jeweled net, Indra's net of jewels, for me it really, shows and reflects our interconnectedness, our dependency on each other, interdependence. And so I thought I'd bring that to our motivation and to the beginning of our session here in these days of miracles as a way to bring in, to touch on this important teaching of the Buddha of dependent arising, dependent origination. And so the heart essence of Buddha's practice, I'm sure most of you are aware, the essence of the Buddha Dharma is the practice of non-harmfulness based on the view of dependent arising. So I thought we could explore together a little bit this meaning of dependent arising, and then look at the implications of that and how that can affect our practice of non-harmfulness. So that's what we're going to share together today. Later on in the talk, if I open up for question and answer. So if you have any burning questions along the way, please raise your hand in the Zoom. I'll see if I can pick them up as we go. Otherwise, for the last half an hour, we'll have some question and answer. And so when we look at dependent arising or interdependence, there are 3 levels of dependent arising, and just to touch on them now, but I won't go into them. So the first level is the coarsest or grossest level of dependency is depending on causes and conditions. And the second level is depending on having part, a whole in its parts. And then the third level, the most subtle level of dependent arising, is being dependent on being merely imputed or imputation by mind, by language and conception. And so today, just going to touch on the most coarsest level of dependent arising of cause and effect, just to get a feel for that and then see how that works with our experience of life as well. So thinking about this beautiful Indra's net of jewels again and seeing how each jewel is reflected in the other and reflects all the others. When I think about that, it helps me think about have more understanding for other people and myself, and understanding where we come from and how we are now, and our interactions with others. So if you think about this reflecting in each other, then each of us, we have our own backgrounds, our own life story, our own families that we're born into, and society, the community that we grew up in, and our education, and whatever work or life experiences we've had since then, and the environment as well, and all living on this earth as well. And we're in this new lunar cycle, so also we're affected by the moon with the tides and the ocean and things. So actually all those things affect our lives, affect how we are and who we are, don't they? We're inspired by other people, and we're influenced by other people. We're inspired and affected by our environments. And so we can see all these different conditions that affect our lives. And not only that, like probably most of you have better insight into this, but when I was growing up, I always treated my body like a robot, not really paying attention, not really thinking of the body as like an organic thing, that or an organism, that whatever you put in it affects how it is, right? We're much more aware these days about what we eat, how it affects our body, and whether we exercise, and the conditions that we surround ourselves in, how that improves or harms our physical well-being, right? And these days as well, there's some understanding of the way we think also impacts our health, our immune system, whether it harms it or whether it benefits, right? Our immune system. So we can see the way we think has an impact on our body as well. And also when our bodies are tired or not so well, or sometimes when we're living in through the winter, cold dark winters for a long time, that affects our mood, doesn't it? So we can see that the physical things also affect our way of thinking. So these are different conditions that surround us that affect how we are and who we are. To see if that's true for you, if you can relate with that. So some of those things are immediate around us, affecting us in the moment, and we'll find that many of those things have the causes that bring about how we are and who we are now, the things we've been affected by in the past that shape who we are and how we are now. So just to delve into that a little bit more, then with our inner experience of happiness and suffering, or experiencing problems, or the suffering that we experience in our life, those are all the mental problems that we have. They all come from their own causes as well. And the main causes are also, if the experience of pain or happiness are within us, then the causes for that is also within us. So the causes of our mental suffering, our mental problems, come from these mental causes, which are our attachment and our aversion or anger. And these two come from our underlying ignorance about how we exist. So of course we're affected, as we've been looking at, the external thing affect how we are and who we are and how we experience the world. But the inner experience that we have, the main cause of that is within us too. So here, this is how I link the practice of non-harmfulness coming from the view of dependent arising. If we see that our happiness and suffering are dependent arising, coming about from causes and conditions, and our mental suffering is coming from our own underlying attachment, aversion, or anger and ignorance, then we can look at how we can counteract or overcome our attachment and our anger. First, through looking at what are the problems with them, seeing how they do bring about problems for us, and then looking at what are the ways we can reflect, what are things we can reflect on, and what tools we can use to overcome them. So actually, to say at the outset, the deeper level of understanding of dependent arising can overcome our ignorance of how we exist and can lead us to the wisdom, understanding reality. So that understanding of dependent arising is like this supreme knowledge that we can gain to really transform our minds and our lives. And then, like at the most deep level, this understanding of dependent arising can lead us to understanding the lack of a independent or intrinsic self, which is like in Buddhist terms we call this view of emptiness. So that's the like how you give in Buddhism usually given the analogy of a tree, how for all the afflictions and are like the branches of a tree, then if you want to overcome the afflictions, you could chop with the analogy, like you could chop the branches of the tree. But then the problem is they'll just grow back, right? So the best way to get rid of is to cut the tree at the root. And so like that, to get rid of the branches of all our different afflictions in the mind, or the troublesome states of mind that cause us problems, then if we can cut them at their root, we can overcome them all in one go. So that cutting the root is this wisdom, understanding, selflessness, right? Yeah. But then to chop back the branches and manage the tree until we've got a deep understanding of this wisdom, then we can look at what are called like local antidotes, ways to work with the situations we're in, to deal with our anger and our attachment as they come up. So a way to, first of all, why do we need to overcome anger? Then anger is the state of mind that not able to tolerate things, right? Not able to bear difficulties that we experience. It's a mind that, it's kind of a weak mind. It's not able to bear the suffering or the problems that we experience in life. And it's a response to that of wanting to retaliate with harm, right? So we all know from our own experience, when we get angry, we might say or do things that, where we put our foot in it and cause problems in our relationships with others. And as soon as we get over our anger, we usually want to apologize and say, oh, I didn't mean to do that. That's, I just got really upset or angry. And so we usually are not ourselves when we get angry, right? It's not our normal state to be in. We usually do things that we feel embarrassed or ashamed about afterwards once we've gotten angry. So it can really bring problems in our relationships, of course, but even just within ourselves, like when we're angry, it's really we're restless. It's hard to be at ease, isn't it? It's hard to sleep well. If we're really angry, we don't feel like eating, and we don't really take care of ourselves so well when we get angry. You look from our own experiences how it affects us getting angry. And also, if we were to look at ourselves in the mirror when we're angry, we'd probably be embarrassed to see the face looking at us, wouldn't we? So actually these days as well, there's common knowledge that getting angry harms our immune system, right? It brings us high blood pressure. And lots of sicknesses can come from having being angry for a while. So we can see it's in our interest on a physical level and a mental level to try and deal with our anger, right? So if anger is a mind that can't tolerate or can't bear, difficulties and problems that we face, then patience or forbearance, or this attitude of patience, if we can bring that to mind, then that's a mind that is like a strong mind, a courageous mind that's able to face difficulties, to withstand or bear hardships that we face. And there are different levels of patience and different ways of cultivating it, but just in this short time together today, we can just look at the level of practice and patience in relation to when we receive harm from others, like when people say stuff that we don't like, or do things to us that hurt us that we don't like, or give us problems, make us unhappy. So when we're faced with those, if our normal reaction is to be angry, then what we can try and do is come from a place of patience, from being able to bear the difficulties. So why would we want to do that? So if we're able to bear the difficulties we face, then, like I say, then it brings us we have more courage we're stronger to be able to be present with it. And also, if you think about when we're angry, our mind gets really agitated, right? It's hard to think clearly when we're angry. So if we're able to bear the difficulties that we're facing or the harm that someone else is doing to us, then we can keep a calm, cool mind. Basically, we can think, we have more clarity to think about a more reasonable approach to deal with the situation. So this mind of a patient mind is one that remains undisturbed in the face of harm. So it remains, we don't destroy our peace of mind if we're able to keep patient. So we might think that being patient is like in other person's favor, but we can actually see if we just look a little into it that it's actually in our own interest to be more patient. It's, again, on a physical level as well, the more we're able to bear the hardships, if we can keep an undisturbed mind in that moment, then also our blood pressure is not going to go up, it's not going to harm our immune system. So it's kinder to ourselves, it's better for our holistic, physical and mental well-being if we're able to keep patient, right? So if we can draw on this and, this thing of dependent arising, this topic of dependent arising in our cultivation of a more patient, undisturbed mind, then we can look at reasons for why or how to be patient. So in Shantideva's text, probably most of you are familiar with the great Bodhisattva Shantideva, his text, The Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. Then the chapter on patience in there is very extensive. And in there it's loaded with reasons of why and how to be patient. So it's a section, on cultivating the practice of the perfection of patience. Quite interestingly, early on in the verses, it mentions about how underlying anger is this sense of unhappiness. So when we get angry, it's usually what underlies what makes the anger flare up is that underlying that we're unhappy with a situation or with something. So it's like when we have hopes and expectations that don't get met, then we feel, then we get unhappy about that. And then my teacher previously, Gishta Sering, he said that behind anger is attachment. So attachment, has these hopes and expectations. So when that doesn't get met, then our anger is ready to jump up so behind attachment and behind anger is attachment. So I see a question there from the group. What influences dependent arising more, our intentions or disappeared? So definitely our intentions are going to affect dependent arising. It itself is a dependent arising, but also our understanding. This is why I brought it up at the beginning on our motivation. Our understanding of dependent arising is really going to affect our intentions, our motivation. That's I'm not telling you it's like that. It's for us to consider and contemplate, think about together, see how that might be true. But basically, what if we have, that's what I wanted to get to, like, if we have an understanding of the totality of a situation, like someone who harms us, like said something really hurtful to us, for example, usually we would be really affected by that, hurt by it, might get angry by that. But if we were able to see the totality of the situation, that would help reduce our anger. So looking at the dependent arisings of the situation, like if we consider the other person might be going through something, or they might have, they're affected by the society that they're brought up in, or, they're having a bad day because of something that happened to them, it gives a little bit of room for understanding, which would help to cut through our feeling so affected or hurt or anger, responding with anger to how they behave to us. You know, like for example, if you give a silly example, like if someone pulls out in front of you in their car, you know, and they just pull out in front of you without considering you. That sometimes, you know, the road rage that kicks up, we go, oh, how dare you, whatever you might say. Or if someone elbows you in the way through a doorway at a shopping centre or something, you know, we usually get annoyed. But if we knew that there was, yeah, the person was going through a bad day or rushing to get somewhere because there was an emergency or they, you know, had some bad news they had to attend to or something like that, that has the potential to immediately cut through our feeling. You go, oh, sorry, don't worry, carry on, keep going, right? So with an example like that, it's clear how the understanding of the bigger picture of the dependent arising of the situation, the conditions that have affected the person behaving like that in that moment, that can cut through our responsive anger. It can pacify it, right? So actually, you know, in some cases it might not be as obvious like that someone had an emergency to get to, you know, that they didn't mean to intend, they weren't intending to hurt us or put in front of us on the way. Sometimes it might not be that obvious, but if we can reflect ourselves on a deeper level of our interconnectedness, and we can have come from a place of a wider understanding of our life experiences, then that can help. That can actually patience itself is said to be like a shield of armor that protects us. So also I feel like this understanding of dependent arising, of our interconnectedness, of how we're affected by all causes and conditions and things, can also be like a shield of armor that protects our mind wherever we go, so that when we encounter different situations that would normally push our button, the more familiar we are with thinking about our interconnectedness and thinking about how things arise from causes and conditions, then the more our mind just is protected by that it stays a more peaceful state, more undisturbed. When we have more understanding when people respond with things that would normally trigger us or make us angry or unhappy. I think there's so much to say about all these things, so we're not going to have time in this short session together, but just tapping on these few things to reflect on. So already, hopefully you get a taste of how through the understanding this natural thing that is our interconnectedness, the reality of how we are, then that can already help affect help bring about more peace of mind and understanding, but that would also help towards our practice of non-harmfulness, right? Because we're not going to instinctively want to respond with harm when people push our buttons. And there's so many beautiful verses in Shanti David's text, but the one of them that stands out, probably many of you have heard of it and familiar with it, about the stick, the person and the stick. So like if someone was to beat you with a stick, this is the old example given in this ancient text, someone was to beat you with a stick, you wouldn't get angry with the stick, right? You get angry with the person who's wielding or holding the stick, right? Because we know the stick doesn't have any control, so we don't get angry at the stick, we get angry at the person who holds the stick. So Deva gives this analogy and says, well, similarly, we shouldn't get angry at the person because they're not in control. They're under the control or overpowered by their own anger or their own disturbing emotion. So if we can think about this a little bit and see how that could affect our way of approaching interactions we have with others. If we had this real understanding that, because we know for ourselves, like I said earlier, when we get angry, if we say and do stuff heated by that anger, we usually feel embarrassed or ashamed afterwards, and we feel like we want to apologize to the other person, or we just feel really rubbish in ourselves we feel like we haven't really expressed who we really are in that moment, right? We don't feel at ease in ourselves with that. So we know that we weren't in control in that moment. We were overpowered or overwhelmed by our anger, right? So when we know that about ourselves, we can also maybe how do you say, like cut some slack for the other person to see that, oh, they were just overwhelmed by their anger or their strong attachment as an outcome of some sort, so they behaved in that way. Yeah, so this thing, like we don't get angry at the stick, we get angry at the person who holds the stick. So likewise, we shouldn't get angry at the person. We should get angry at the disturbing emotions that motivated that person to behave like that. So here also looking at this interconnectedness of things, because usually we really identify ourselves with our personalities, don't we? We're quite strong in that. We think, I am a kind person, I'm a generous person, or I'm a grumpy person, or I'm a, we relate with our personality quite a lot. But actually, if we look inward a bit, we can see that our states of mind come and go. We're not always, if we think that we're a kind person, to be honest, we're not, most of us probably not 100% kind all the time. There's times where when we're making a cup of tea, where we're neither kind nor harmful to people, right? It's, we're not always the personality that we so associate with. We're not necessarily always like that. And if you think about, like, if each of us here were all to hop into each other's rooms and meet each other right now, probably the way we'd relate with each other is very different to if you go and relate with your family or with your friends. Even, I often think if you had a party with all the people there in it, your friends and your family and your work colleagues, then the way that we relate with the different groups of people in our lives is slightly different, isn't it? Not that we put on masks and like we're only true when we're with this person and not with everyone else, but just because we relate with each other in the different, so that's also like the way we connect with each other is based on how the other person is with us as well, isn't it? So there's kind of nuances in the way that we relate with each other. So with some people, maybe your more creative, artistic side comes out. When you're with some people, maybe your business mind kicks in. Where you're with some people, it's naturally you're more kinder and generous with them. There's other people when we might have our guard up a bit, and so we can see that what we hold so strongly to our sense of identity and personality, but actually that is also depends on the interactions we have with all the different people and environments we surround in. So like that, we can see that we are not our thoughts. We are not our personality. Right. So when someone's being harmful to us in a moment, or speaking out of anger to us in that moment, they're not 100% angry all the time, right? And they're overwhelmed by that state of mind in that moment. So if we have a wider understanding of where they've come from, we might not be able to know the situation they're in, and we don't necessarily need to know all the details of it, but we can have some space in our mind to consider that there's a background story to their behavior, and that they're not their anger, and that also we ourselves, if we choose to to just follow it through and respond by getting hurt and getting angry in response, then we're not really being kind to ourselves in that moment, are we? Like if we're able to, we don't want to be undisturbed, we don't want to lose our peace of mind, we want to stay happy and at ease, don't we? So also, so I gave the analogy of how we can look at the other person in that situation, but when we look at ourselves as well, if we're able to draw on this courage to remain undisturbed in that situation, then we can think that that moment of harm that someone's given us is also an opportunity. The problem that they've given us also become an opportunity for us to grow, to strengthen our mind, strengthen our courage, and strengthen our ability to withstand difficulties. As one of the benefits of training in patience as well is like if we're able to accept the smaller difficulties that we face, then we kind of strengthen that tool, that instrument, so to be able to, we strengthen the power of our mind to be able to handle more and more difficult situations. So actually goes to another level of, probably most of you are aware of it as well, that it's possible to see, not it's possible actually, that we should be able to see the person who's harming us, the harm doer, as like a really good friend, like our teacher and a good friend. So they're in a way they're being kind to us because they give an opportunity for us to develop our patience. which benefits us. So probably more than touched on anger there, and I say so now we can have a little. So yeah, if we're able to train in this forbearance, this patience, withstanding difficulties, withstanding harm, then that also increases our well-being, and it also helps to reduce. That also is an antidote to reduce our anger, which is in turn will help to reduce our suffering and the problems we experience. So likewise, if attachment as well is a dependent arising, comes about through causes and conditions, then, when we have this mind of attachment, just like anger exaggerates the negative qualities in someone or negative attributes of someone, our attachment, in English we'd say it's like having rose-tinted glasses on, makes everything, or makes the person that you're attached to or the thing you're attached to look totally beautiful. You only see the good in it, you don't see any bad in it, right? But actually attachment is not only like blinds us to only see what's good in someone, it over-exaggerates the goodness. It over-exaggerates the qualities in the thing we're attached to. And it has this unsettled kind of, this not at ease, it's not satisfied. It wants, the mind of attachment is like grasping at that thing, wanting it to, or that person, feeling like that person brings me happiness, or that thing will make me happy, right? So there's always a sense of dissatisfaction and agitation in the mind when we have attachment there. And also in our relationships, when, who am I to talk about it being a nun, but we have all different levels of relationships with people in our families, and as well as romantic relationships. So if you think about it, our attachment, when we think that we love someone, we have to check how much of that is pure love, which is just wanting them the aspect of wanting them to be happy, and how much of it is this attachment about what's in it for me, for my own happiness, the expectations we put on the person or the thing that we're attached to make me happy. And then when that expectation doesn't get met, how do we feel? So if we're able to, lower down, pacify our attachment, then we can have, again, more peace of mind, less expectations on others, and more open communication in our relationships with people. So it's going to be a healthier way to relate with each other. It's going to be better for us too. And there are different things we can reflect on to deal with our attachment. But here I thought to bring in this, looking at this sense of attachment to ourself and our own happiness, as in like this, in the Buddhist term we call self-cherishing mind. So, you can look at this self-centered attitude. So that's, just having a sense of holding ourselves as like our own self-importance while disregarding others. Not this sense of self-confidence and a healthy sense of self, but this attitude that like doesn't really care about or where we want something for the self or want to do something for ourselves, even at the cost of others, like not caring about how it's going to affect others. Yeah, so sometimes the way we behave when we're coming from that place, oh, and I listen to really loud music tonight. It's my birthday. I'm going to have and not caring about if it's going to disturb the people in the next room or something like that. Like different to checking in with them before and saying, "Do you mind? It's my birthday," and like considering. There's a difference between. Doesn't mean you don't do it. It's just like whether we consider others in our behavior, whether it's affecting them or not, right? So this self-centered mind, it doesn't consider others. It just has this sense of self-importance, putting yourself in the center of your universe and then not bothering about how it's affecting others. Which, if you think about the reflection we did at the beginning of Indra's jeweled neck, and if you saw some comparison or some truth in that, relating that jeweled net to and how each one is reflected in each other and reflects each other, how we all are interconnected as well, and how we reflect in each other and affect each other, right? If you think like that, then we already know that our actions do have implications on others, it affects others, right? So the way to counter that sense of that self-centeredness is to open our minds to this more sense of cherishing others. But when we think about a self-centered attitude or self-cherishing, just think about times where we've been caught up in that ourselves, like to see that it's, is it a narrow state of mind or is it a vast state of mind? When we act out of self-cherishing or self-centered attitude, if we're just thinking about ourselves, then it's obviously a narrow state of mind, right? And another saying we have in English about not seeing the forest for the trees. You heard that one? So when I think about that here in Tushita, surrounded by the forest, it's true. When you're right up close to one, you can't see the whole forest around it, right? So when we come from this, I think of that when I think of this mind of self-centeredness or self-cherishing. It's like when we're so self-focused, so caught up in this self-focus, then our problems become huge, basically. There's no room for the vaster to see more vastly. Our problems, in English again, we say like making a mountain out of a molehill as well. Sometimes that's something that, a tree is big compared to us, but like when it's right there in front of your face, it seems unmanageable if it's a problem, right? Whereas if you can step back and have a wider view, then you can hold it in your mind a bit easier. So likewise, this mind of self-centeredness, it's like this really narrow mind that can't see the forest with a tree. Whereas if you're able to open our minds to consider everyone else, then it becomes more spacious mind, and thereby our own problems are more manageable in there. We're able to hold them in mind easier without getting so affected by them, because we've got a vaster view. And some reasons to open our minds to expand our mind to be more concerned about others, to cherish others as well. Again, Shantideva gives many verses in his meditation chapter in the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, which are really beautiful, and some of them quite mind-boggling. He jumps to a deep level of where you literally put yourself in the other person's shoes, if we say it like that, which the way it's expressed in his text is a dialogue between where he puts himself in the other person's shoes and then speaks back to himself as which is, I find it mind-boggling but really inspiring too. So anyway, if you like to look more into ways to think about to open our mind to have this mind of cherishing others, then please have a good look at Shirley Davis' text, the meditation chapter. Some of the reasons I think for developing, sorry, I'm seeing a couple of questions popping up and they're passing me by when will they be there still when we have the question and answer after? Then maybe we hold, we'll take a look at them in the question and answer time. Thanks. So if I think of some reason for open our mind to be more concerned about others, to have this mind of cherishing others, then one of the things I think about is the kindness of others. So, it's taught a lot in the Buddha's teachings and really beautifully and extensively. When we think about if we accept past and future lives, that we're not just coming to the world, just this one time, then we can recognize that just as we're born to parents in this life, we will have been born to parents in the past life and back. So one reason for having this sense of closeness to others and recognizing the kindness of others is that, there's actually no one we can identify and 100% exclude them and say they were not our parents in the past. So this is one way we can reflect on how, this sense of closeness to others, that they've all been our parents in the past. And so the sense of appreciating their kindness in the role of our parents at any one time or many times in the past. And if that's something we don't feel it fits in with our worldview or way of thinking at the moment, you can leave that to one side. That's just one thing we can think about. Another, it's if you look at which is more direct and obvious to us, the kindness of others in this life. So right now we're meeting online in the World Wide Net, and we've all got our rooms behind us. Some of you have got your videos on, and you've got loads we've all got, even if it's just a few things, you know, we've all got a few stuff. I can see some walls and curtains and windows and some ornaments. And even in the blurry pictures, there's some the hints of some things behind you. So yeah, all the stuff we have that we make use of in our day-to-day lives, or things that cheer us up, and you know, things that the stuff that we have all came about. They were all made by other people mostly, weren't they? Or even if we made them ourselves, so the raw materials that we got, you know, we had to got from somewhere and put together. So basically all the things that we have that we make use of in our day-to-day lives came about through the hard efforts of many, many people. You know this, so it's just a reflection together, just bring it fresh in the mind again. And also, of course, the food that we eat every day, you know, we reflect even on one single meal, how many people, let alone all the different living beings that were involved in one single meal, from the actual growing of the food that we eat, let alone the, you know, people then harvesting them, or then supplying them in shops, or transporting them around the world. And, you know, people making recipes, you know, way back, the meals that we make, you know, we might think we come up with our own idea about something, but it's going to be influenced by other things that we've eaten in the past, or our cultural foods. And yeah, so the things that we eat every day come about through the kindness of many people. And then the transport, getting us from A to B, and you know, the things, the technology that we use now to have our discussion today. Just see if you can think of anything that came about without depending on the kindness of other people. You know, we don't, what was I going to say? Just slipped my mind. Oh, yeah. So when we think of the word being kind, we usually think that someone meant to be kind to us, don't we? You usually think they intended to be kind to us, and so therefore they've been kind to us. Whereas, you know, like before, with someone who harms us, we don't think of them as kind to us. But if there's something that gives us an opportunity to grow our own, strength of mind, our own courage, our own beautiful heart of patience, then without meaning to, without intending to, they've been kind to us. When I was first learning the Dharma, I'm still learning it now, but like in the early days when I started, hearing about how the Dharma is kind to us, I thought, how can the Dharma be kind? It doesn't have a mind, it doesn't think, you know. but you know, then I was thinking of the Dharma as the text, you know, not the actual Dharma jewel of the realizations and continuum and the cessations. But so how is it the Dharma is kind to us? Because it didn't intend to be kind to us. And so I had blocks then, but then I've benefited from it, so therefore it's been kind to me. Basically, that's it. If we're benefited by something or someone, then it has been kind to us. And whether we're benefited by something or someone depends on how we relate to that, doesn't it? If we see it as a problem, we don't see it as having benefited us. But if we see it as an opportunity, or some advice, or as a reason to grow or open our heart, then we can see it as something that benefit us, right? So some food for thought like that. And also those who consider ourselves Buddhists, you know, we're aiming, wanting to attain the state of Buddhahood. Why? Not just to overcome our own suffering, but to overcome, in order to alleviate the suffering of each and every sentient being, right? And so the cause of Buddhahood is, the main cause is bodhicitta. There are many causes, of course, you know, but the main cause is bodhicitta. So this bodhicitta attitude takes to mind for the sake of all sentient beings wanting to attain Buddhahood, right? So there's no way to achieve enlightenment without developing bodhicitta. There's no way to develop bodhicitta without holding in mind all sentient beings. So just by the fact of being a sentient being, they're being kind to us, because in taking them to mind, if we leave out even one, we can't develop bodhicitta. We can't have this bodhicitta mind. So Bodhicitta takes to mind all sentient beings and wishes to free them all from suffering and wants to attain the state of Buddhahood. Yeah, so in order to alleviate the suffering of all sentient beings, I must attain Buddhahood. So it's focused on Buddhahood, but why? For the purpose of alleviating suffering of all sentient beings. So, yeah, developing bodhicitta depends on taking to mind every sentient being, all sentient beings. So without all sentient beings, there's nowhere for us to go on this journey to enlightenment. So therefore all sentient beings are kind. And also the training, once we take up bodhicitta, then we engage in the bodhisattva training of the 6 perfections, including generosity, the training and the practice of generosity and ethics, patience, joy, ever, concentration and wisdom, right? So the first 3, generosity, ethics and patience, are definitely clearly in relation to other sentient beings, right? So, and I feel as well the concentration and the wisdom also, of course, they depend on other sentient beings, the support we have from others to train our concentration and, the supportive environment that we have for that and things. And then the wisdom, we want to develop the wisdom, understanding dependent arising and understanding emptiness. We have to do it. We want to develop it, that it's a vast wisdom depending on many reasons. So we have to draw on it in relation to other people as well as to we don't look at the emptiness of nothing. You look at it of, the emptiness of a cup, of a person, of our lives, of everything. So we're going to take people to mind, sentient beings to mind in our reflection, as the basis for looking at emptiness and dependent arising. So, all the training and the 6 perfections are also trained in independence upon sentient beings. So that in that way as well, they're very, very kind. So like Kabje Lama's of Rinpoche is to say and it's in the Buddhist scriptures as well, that, in terms of kindness to us, the Buddhas and sentient beings are equal in their kindness to us. And so another reason for developing this mind of cherishing others, so of course, seeing that all sentient beings have been really kind to us, but just recognizing the kindness of others. And then also thinking about His Holiness's advice as well about, this our self-centered or self-cherishing mind thinks of, holds ourselves most important and wants ourselves to be all right, and it's like, what's in it for me? And so His says we want to be selfish. We should be wisely selfish. How to be wisely selfish? To cherish others. So let's be wisely selfish. Have this courage to open our mind in patience when we're faced with harm, and also to open our hearts. Sorry, when I say open our heart, I just remember just outside here behind me, the very last time I saw Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he was about to get in the car and he had his hand like this, and he was just looking at us all and going, open up your hearts, open up your hearts. So we can all take that advice to heart in whatever way we can. And so this attitude of cherishing others is a way to really open our heart. Just think for a moment if you see any benefit in doing that for yourself. In opening our hearts to face the difficulties we have with patience, with tolerance or forbearance, with courage and strength of mind to bear the difficulties we face, to keep a peaceful, graceful mind in these challenges, and to open our hearts in this way of widening our scope to not just thinking of ourselves, but to try and increase our capacity to have concern for others in a way that's healthy, that uplifts us, also gives us courage, makes our mind more expansive, extensive, more vast, like the sky. That's also going to help us be able to take difficulties that we face too. And if we're able to reflect on that, see if it'll be helpful for us, you think, for yourself, to be able to reflect more on the kindness of others, if we can bring that into our awareness day to day. I feel like, again, it's not something that just helps the people out there in the way that we relate to them, but also this sense of appreciation we have. There's an uplifting state of mind, isn't it? These days they talk a lot about gratitude. They just think, when we overtly are aware someone's done something to help us, we feel naturally this appreciation and this more closeness with them, and we just feel more uplifted and supported. And I really feel like, when we're more aware of the kindness of others, we feel more connected with others, and then we don't feel so lonely and isolated from others. Because even the clothes we're wearing came about through the kindness of others, the food we're eating. So we're not alone, we're never alone. So I feel like these states of mind can really uplift us, and the open-hearted mind is really, really good for us. What do you reckon? So if we connect this again, like with this running theme of recognizing our interconnectedness, then actually if we're able to reflect more and more, to bring our understanding of dependent arising, our interconnectedness more and more into our way of thinking, then you see that our way of thinking is going to be more in line with reality, isn't it? So if our way of thinking is more in line with reality, we're going to have more clarity, we'll be clearer, have better understanding of things. So then the way we think based on that, the way we speak based on that, the way we act based on that, it's going to be more in line with reality as well. It's going to be more constructive. If we're thinking in line with reality when we're making decisions about things, we could be more clear about a more appropriate course of action, a more reasonable course of action, a more beneficial course of action. Then we'd be clear about bringing about a better outcome. So then when we think like that, then when people do things overtly to benefit us, we can, that are helpful to us or that we like, we can feel like, thank you very much. But likewise, when people do things that we would normally feel, take as harm to us or problems for us, when we can see it as a way to grow in our understanding and to develop our strength of mind, our open mind, to develop a more vast mind, a more courageous mind, then that's also going to bring about a more happier mind, increase our well-being physically and mentally. So then to them as well, we can feel like, thank you very much. And then the people that don't put our buttons either way, who we might take for granted most of the time, like a taxi driver who takes us from here to there, or, someone that does things for, or maybe not directly doing things for us, but, we'll jump on a bus to go somewhere, or a waiter will bring, our drink over to the table or something, and we might say thank you, but like, do we feel this sense of appreciation for them? Do we recognize their kindness in their coming out and working, like, in whatever the weather, or whether at night time people are doing night shifts at the supermarkets 24/7. They're not working 24/7, but the places are open these days all the time. People are working hours. They'd rather be at home with their families, aren't they? Probably most of you as well, same. So we all give a lot of ourselves to do our roles in society to keep the world ticking over, don't we? And so to have, if we're able to feel a sense of appreciation of their kindness as well, the people that we usually take for granted or don't even recognize, then that's also going to increase our sense of connectedness. Help sort of counteract our sense of loneliness or depression even as well. We feel more uplifted, more connected, more supported, and this sense of appreciation or gratitude is like a maybe like open state of mind, isn't it? So it's also, if we can bring all kinds of people at all kinds of times into our mind in the way of recognizing their kindness, then yeah, it's going to be, well, what do you think? It's going to be good for us, right? To see if you think it's true or not. I'm not telling you it is. See how you feel. Okay, well, I think, yeah, we can bring some question and answers now. The main thing I wanted to share and talk about kind of covered. So looking at our interconnectedness and then looking at the dependent arising of our happiness and suffering, and looking at the suffering, how it comes from our afflicted states of mind and how they're also dependent arising and how we can overcome them and transform them through developing some more constructive states of mind. And we just looked at a couple here, not so many, but just touched on a few there. So do you think how this understanding of the reality of our interconnectedness can help to not only promote and increase our own well-being, but also this practice of non-harmfulness to others, and on top of that, how this inspires this wanting to help and benefit others as well. So yeah, I'm interested to see how you feel this view of dependent arising, how it affects our practice, our training in non-harmfulness. Yeah, just see if that rings true for you, and hopefully you found some way to connect that and see if it helps with your understanding, or maybe it's something you already understood before that you can then just refresh that and deepen it. So thank you for listening to what I wanted to share with you today. And we'll have a little question and answer now. And if there's time, we'll do a short reflection at the end for a few minutes. So maybe I can try and find those questions from earlier on. And Isadora, you have a question, you'll see your hand up. Would you like to ask that? And then I'll go into that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. My question is about fear and anxiety. How you can explain that, and what is the antidote? Like you said, the antidote for anger is patience. So what would be for this fear and anxiety about future and everything what we feel generally, most of the people? So, or what kind of practice? Thank you.
Thank you, Isadora. So I found it interesting from when the presentation in the Buddhist psychology about different states of mind and different afflictions we have, fear wasn't mentioned in it. Yet the state of Buddhahood, or like of the four qualities of a Buddha, there are many qualities, but when they're condensed into four at one perspective, it says the Buddha is fearless because he has realized reality just as it is. And the Buddha is skilled in freeing others from fear because the Buddha knows the diversity of all the minds of all beings. And so he knows exactly, what to say and how to say it at the right time and things. So through knowing reality, you overcome fear. And then through knowing the diversity of all sentient beings' minds, then you're skilled in freeing others from fear. So if we look at that explanation, then although fear isn't itself explicitly talked about as an affliction or in the presentation of Buddhist psychology, so the presentation in the Buddhist psychology is not exhaustive, by the way. It gives about 52 different states of mind, and then there are many more that can branch off from that. But I was surprised that it didn't even come up in that main presentation. So there was a doubt I had. So I'm not sure I can say like this is it and then this is the direct antidote. But looking at this about how Buddha has freed himself from fear through knowing reality, then I feel like that's one explanation we can explore. That then if we're able to align ourselves with this understanding of our interconnectedness and of the reality of things lacking any intrinsic, independent, inherent existence, then that's a deep way of going to it to sort of overcome all our fears. But even to what extent we're able to understand how things depend on others, this interdependency and emptiness, that's gonna, to whatever extent we can do that day to day, that's gonna help pacify our fear. But that's on a deep level, and on a more accessible level for us. it's just getting to know our mind, you know, with the basic mindfulness techniques that are taught, in, you know, like in a secular way, not even looking at Buddhist training as well, just about getting to understand the nature of mind, observing our mind, then we're able to see when our, like on a relative level of our mind, the changing nature of mind. So mind is defined as that which is clear and knowing. So mind has the ability to reflect and to know its objects. So if we look at the mind like a mirror, that, you know, that it has the potential to reflect its objects, then we can see our thoughts when they come up. If we're able to just watch them, observe them with what they call like bare attention, you know, so you're not jumping on the thoughts. If we're able to create a bit of space in our mind through just observing the flow of our thoughts. So we start with the flow of our breathing, and then we can go a step more and looking at the thoughts and arising them and observing them, and then thinking, like just noticing when thought arises, and then watch it arise, stay a while, and then disappear. If we're able to do that, then we don't latch on to the thoughts. So my first meditation teacher, Venerable Antonio, when he was teaching the Vipassana course, the Mahayana Vipassana, he said that, you know, like suffering by itself passes, but when we marry onto it, then it makes it difficult for it to pass. So when we think like I'm suffering, so when we latch onto our thoughts, then it's harder for them to pass. If we could just watch them with their attention, we can just let them come and go. And at that time, he also gave this instruction in the meditation as well, that just like a bird flies through the sky, it leaves no trace. And our thoughts are like that. So I found that really beautiful. And I feel like our fears come when we buy into and latch onto our thoughts, and we get all tangled up in. And like you're saying, it comes when we're thinking about the future as well. So if we're able to be present now with where we're at now and connect with our breathing or by observing our thoughts, then we can just let things flow and not latch onto them. And that can help a lot with not proliferating the thoughts and latching on and getting the fear. So wisdom, thinking more in line with reality about things, can help pacify the fear, and being present and mindful, aware in the moment, and getting to know our minds and seeing the flow of how things pass and not latching onto them. I think those can help with the fear. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's my thoughts on it. Thank you. Okay. It's okay. Do we take one from the? I can't find them on the screen now. Oh, there's only one there now.
You can go and share.
Yeah.
All you answered already.
Oh, I've only got one now. There were 5. Oh, okay. Now he's back. Thank you. Yeah, the first one we did. It's the difference between suppressing our feeling and working around the anger. Well, suppressing our feeling is also going to eat away at our immune system, and we're going to feel it in us as something that's not healthy for us, and we're just holding on to things, and we feel quite intense with it, and we're not really working through the anger, are we? So suppressing it is not good for us. You know, something Venerable Ravina said years ago, like, you know, when we're with other people, she said, zip your lip and keep your hand to yourself. When you're by yourself, watch your mind. It's really funny, but it's also really practical advice. Like, so there's a balance to find about not suppressing our anger and not reacting. You know, if we might get angry, but we don't want to act it out. We don't want to punch someone, you know, we want to. So at that time is appropriate time to zip our lip and keep our hands to ourselves so that we don't cause harm to someone else. But then we don't suppress the anger and fester it. We need to, you know, the things we looked at today, if you found some helpful, is to look into that more and try and cultivate our practice of patience and love more and more. And to the extent we're able to train in that, to the extent our response is going to come as more of a patient and a more loving response in the face of difficulty. rather in place of anger. It will take place of the anger instead. It's the antidote anger. But anger is based on a mistaken mind, on a wrong mind. Anger arises due to our ignorance. So it's like building castles in the sand. It doesn't have a stable foundation. So if we know that it's a mistaken mind, of course, we can't stop our emotions coming and we're going to feel angry sometimes. But if we're able to recognize that, it will help us gain some control to not act it out without suppressing it. So while we're in this process of developing our training, our resilience and our training in being patient and loving in response to harm, in the beginning, that's not our automatic response, right? So when our anger arises, we shouldn't get angry at ourselves for getting angry. We just have to recognize that it happened again and sort of determined to try and work with it, because we know it's not in our interest. So, but the fact that it's arisen there is going to leave some aftertaste with us. So we have to be kind and gentle with ourselves and try and release it without getting, don't suppress the anger. So someone I know thought that it would be a good idea to literally get a punch bag in their garage so that they could let it out on that instead of, letting out their anger to people that, it was my brother who was going through a difficult time in his life with the work he was doing. He actually got a punch bag and he found it very therapeutic. So that was a way of releasing that energy of the anger. So not suppressing it, but then not acting out of anger and harming the people or yourself in the moment. So working around the anger is in our interest, and it will make us stronger and healthier. And along the way, don't suppress our anger. And so hopefully some of the things we said today might have some ways that you can work with that. If not, then there've been many other sources that you can look into to try and find ways to not suppress the anger. But also, in Western culture, we still say it's encouraged to release your anger, isn't it? And it's, they think it's good to express your anger. The more that we understand the harm anger does to us in the short term and the long term, the more we become really certain in our minds that we don't want to get angry for even a second, that it's really not in our interest to do it. It's not good to express our anger. That does not mean suppress it. And we're a working process, so we've got to find ways to release it without expressing our anger in an angry way that causes harm. So, that's helpful. We're not going to be able to get I'm limited in my way to explain it, and also time. We don't have time to go deeply into these things, but just to touch on it there as a reply to that question. So then, but it happens in life that we take actions considering good for others too, like something we do or say shouldn't affect others, but not everyone thinks the same way. People don't consider anything at all, which then affects us. So sometimes we say things or do things that we think are going to help, but actually we end up putting our foot in it, and sometimes it makes the situation worse, right? So that's a tricky one with like thinking about what should we do then. And I think the answer is that we don't have clairvoyance, we don't know what's best for the other person in that moment. So we just do the best we can. The main thing is our intention, which we touched on earlier. Our motivation, our intention is everything actually. So what we say and do, if we're behaving out of a good intention, then then we're doing the best we can, aren't we? We can't guarantee the response from the other person, but if our intention is to not hurt them, if our intention is to say something that's helpful for them or do something that's in their interest, even if they don't accept it like that, we can't be responsible for how they respond, right? We can only be responsible from where we're coming from. what we can think about with this as well is just realizing our limitations and seeing that there is really a need for, as they beautifully described in Buddha's teachings about the two, like having the two wings of a bird, like a bird needs two wings to fly, and to fly to the state of enlightenment, like full awakening, full, full perfect knowledge and love and ability, then we need the two wings of wisdom and compassion. So we might have a good intention, we might come from a loving place, but it's really important to supplement or infuse that with wisdom. And then it will become more skillful. We'll become more skillful and more able, effective in our way of wanting to help others. So we just have to start where we are and do our best with what we've got, but bearing in mind that it's in our interest. If we want to be more effective in the way that we communicate and help others, then the more wisdom we can bring to that and the more love we can bring to that, the better it's going to go for us. So we do our best with the intent, just try and have a good motivation for what we're doing now, and also trying to develop our wisdom and our capacity to love along the way, and then it's going to turn out better and better for us. And yeah, this thing about not everyone thinks about or considers how it's going to affect us. So that's something that we either are going to feel stuck with if we're thinking about, if we have expectation of how people will respond to us. If we're, it's either going to crush us if people respond to our trying to help them, or to our actions, if they respond to that with disregarding us or being careless about how they speak to us or behave to us. Or we can again take that on as a way to grow in our resilience, to keep our heart open, like Lama Zopa's advice about open up your heart. Like, it's easy to do it with people who speak nicely to us and do nice stuff, treat us well, isn't it? Comes naturally. But the way to open our heart more and more and more is to challenge ourselves to do it in the places that scare us, in the places that hurt us, in the places where we have resistance. And so if we might feel hurt in the moment by the way someone's treated us, but we can take that into our training, into our development, into our spiritual growth, if we're willing to take that challenge, if we see the benefit in that. And so that again can become something that affects us in a positive way, even if in the temporary moment it seems to have affected it in a bad way. We can take it on and transform it and grow from it. Just my thoughts. Yeah, none of these are answers, like official answers. They're just my thoughts. So thank you for your questions that you've already posted, I think, and your kind words in the chat as well. So we have a few more minutes if any of you have any questions you'd like to ask now. I don't know, I think I can see everyone on the screen, so yeah, post it in the chat if you'd like to ask another question, or just open up your mic and go for it. Okay. But then we have a few more minutes. If you'd like to join me, we can do a short meditation on loving kindness. So if you'd like to join me, then I'd invite you to bring to mind again that beautiful image of Indra's jeweled net. How on every every knot, there is a jewel. And how each jewel is reflected in the other. and how each jewel reflects all the others. And if all those jewels were the 8 billion human beings on the planet, for all the different living beings, all the animals and creatures, if each of those jewels represented every single sentient being that exists, and we're all affected by each other and all reflected in each other, then our cultivation of love, our loving mind, our good heart, is going to have an impact on everyone else. So each of us little jewels, we all want to be happy. None of us wants any problems. So thinking of yourself in this moment and sending some loving kindness to yourself. You have the wish to be happy. You also have the right to be happy. So visualizing at your heart a light of loving kindness. And send that light of love to your whole being, thinking, may I be happy. May I be well and happy. May I be peaceful, well and happy. May I be happy. Now calling to mind someone really close to you that you love, that you naturally wish the best for. Just like you, they want to be happy too. So extend a beam of light of loving kindness from your heart to theirs. Thinking, may you be happy. May you be peaceful and well and happy. Now sending your light of loving kindness from your heart to someone that you've seen but don't really know. Maybe someone who popped up on your screen in our Zoom chat today. Just like you and your loved one, they also want to be happy and have the right. So extend your love to them too. May you be happy, peaceful and well. Now have the courage to bring to mind someone that you've had a bit of difficulty with, maybe not the most difficult, but someone who's pushed your button sometime or another. Recognizing that the way they're behaving is from their own ignorance and their own afflictions, their own dissatisfaction and unhappiness. And just like you and your loved one and everyone else, they too want to be happy and have no problems. So extend your loving kindness to them. May you be happy. May you be peaceful and well and happy. Now extend your loving kindness to everyone else in this group today. All of our Zoom friends here. May we all be happy. May we all be peaceful and well and happy. May everyone in your homeland be peaceful and well and happy. And go on, extend your loving kindness out to everyone in this world, all the 8 billion human brothers and sisters, all the living beings on this planet. And then go for it and extend your love as far as the stretches of the universe. Wherever there are sentient beings, touch them with the light of your loving kindness. May we all be happy. May we all be peaceful and well and happy. And just rest for a few moments in this state of infinite love, unconditional infinite love. And then allow that visualization to dissolve and collect back all the light of love to your heart until it becomes a tiny sphere of light, of loving kindness at your heart. And recognizing that you have this seed of love with you all the time, and making a strong determination, especially for this lunar year ahead, to tap into and nurture and water, nourish this seed of love at your heart, to grow it as much as possible, day by day, week by week, month by month. So we can dedicate whatever merit or virtue we've gathered together through coming together and having this beautiful discussion today on our interconnectedness, reasons to be patient and loving and to cherish others. So all the virtue that we've created through discussing these beautiful teachings given by the Buddha that we've just shared in a brief way today, we can dedicate this as our contribution to world peace. We can dedicate it for the alleviation of all the suffering, for the wars, for peace on earth, and for peace and happiness in the hearts of each and every sentient being. We can also dedicate only for the long and stable life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all the spiritual teachers teaching pure Dharma, and especially at this time for the unmistaken reincarnation of Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche, for Rinpoche's reincarnation to continue the extensive and absolutely exquisite work for benefiting sentient beings. And may his unmistaken reincarnation return so that many more beings can benefit from his holy guidance. We thank you all very much and wish you a happy, healthy year ahead. Thank you for joining us today here at Tuchita. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Venerable Drolma, for accepting our request again. It was a lovely, lovely session. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And tomorrow we have 2 sessions because it's Sunday. So we have one session with Venerable Jamyang talking about the healing power of compassion at 5 o'clock IST, Indian time. And then at 9 o'clock, because she is based in the US. We have a session with Venerable Thupten Sjödrin, right? Very well known. So, and she's talking about unlocking your potential. So I hope to see you tomorrow. Have a lovely evening if you're here in India. And if you're somewhere else in the world, have a lovely afternoon, morning, or good night. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Venerable
you.
Drolma.